So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Global Ed Connect 2023 panel discussion on future-ready teachers, professional development for 21st century pedagogy. We're joined today with the panelists, Ms. Anita Paul, Principal, Amity Global School, Noida, Dr. Shunila Joy Chauhan, Witty International School, Mumbai, Mrs. Santosh Vyas, Principal, Sadhu Vaswani International School for Girls, Shanti Niketan, Delhi.
Good evening.
Welcome to the panel as well. Our aim today, our objective basically is to explore, identify professional development strategies for teachers. I think as principals and as leaders and heads of school, we are constantly trying to upgrade the skills of our teachers. And with 21st century teaching focusing on integration of technology, we need to prepare our teachers to deal with diverse learning needs, foster critical thinking, and develop problem-solving skills in our students. And since the educational landscape has changed so drastically post-COVID, with so many technological advancements, I think there's a growing necessity for teachers to adapt and enhance their pedagogical skills. And the panel today is going to be deliberating on how to do that and what exactly are we seeking and what exactly do we require on how high school principals and educational leaders can support and facilitate this process. So we begin with the first question for today, addressed to you, Santosh ma'am. What do you think are the key competencies that teachers need to be effective in a 21st century classroom?
Yeah, that's a good question. If you talk about the 21st century classroom, it's all about 21st century skills and competencies. And when we say 21st century skills and competencies to be, transacted to the children, such as, like when we talk about WHO's definition, it talks about thinking skills, social skills, and emotional skills. So in the thinking skills, if we see all the skills like, critical thinking, problem solving, decision making, self-awareness, right? All these skills will come. All these thinking skills children need to imbibe, and we have to transact. We have to ensure that children acquire these skills. And then we have, social skills, interpersonal, collaboration, communication, and also emotional skills such as empathy and managing stress, coping up with emotions, etc. So when that means we have to, what is the goal of education nowadays? So when NEP 2020 talks about, keeping that in mind, that prepare children for life, right? So to have that kind of responsibility, teachers themselves have to be future ready to address the children of 21st century. So teachers should be competent, first of all, to, they themselves should exhibit these skills. So what is important is, first of all, I understand that as teacher's vision has to be clear. It has to be, she has to be aware of what is the mission, what is the latest trends in the field of education. What is it that is called knowledge society? What is India's role? Like we talk about, India should be global superpower, right? In this knowledge society that we are going to see. And then, like if I talk to my teachers at times, or when I, interact with teachers, I see often they themselves are not aware of the documents that are existing. So my first suggestion would be that teachers should be abreast of the latest policies at the national level, at the local level. For instance, if I talk about NEP 2020, every teacher must know what are the key features of NEP 2020. That gives everybody a clear vision. And then when we talk about NCF, National Curriculum Framework. So these kind of things, these key features of these, and what is the vision of the government, of that has to be clear with the teacher. So at times when you ask, not all the teachers would know that, some teachers would know, some will just know half of the truths. So I feel the teacher must update her knowledge, first of all. That is very, very important, so that her vision is clear. What is expected from her? So if I say the teacher must, be reflective in her teaching learning. So what is reflection? What is expected from her? So awareness of that and exhibiting those skills, and she should be able to address, when I say readiness for the classroom of the 21st century, we're talking about child-centered education. We're also talking about the learning without burden, okay? Or child should be able to construct knowledge, or to be able to relate the knowledge in the classroom to the life outside. So preparing children for life. And we're talking about global citizenship, etc. So future ready teacher has to ensure that she should be able to address all the children who have got diverse learning needs in a classroom. It's a heterogeneous group. Children have different learning styles, whether it is auditory, it is visual, tactile. So she has to have a strategy for each child and should be able to well define the learning outcomes, right? And the skills and competencies, and what activities she has planned for that classroom to ensure that those life and the skills and competencies are acquired by the students. So what activities, what experiential learning she's going to do in the classroom, how the classroom is going to be engaging, interactive, interesting, joyful, and happy. So that teacher has to ensure. So readiness of that, professional development of the teacher to be updated, and to weave her or to adapt the pedagogy to the needs of the learners. That's very important, I feel.
So Anita, what are your thoughts on this topic?
I think so. She said everything, because you have to understand that with so much that has happened in the past few years with COVID, and with the the teachers and the students coming back to the classroom, and especially for the board classes preparing, especially for grade 12 students. Imagine those 2 years when they must have been in grade 11 and they had to sit for grade 12 exams without kind of a sense of belonging had gone haywire. So the skills that we've been talking about, that we instill in schools, I think so that played a very important role, because the moment they came back to the classrooms, and the teachers also came back, because teachers also had gone to their homes and they had a different role altogether, where they were in a system of coming in the morning and going in the afternoons. Now they were practically at home, where not only their husbands but their children and even their elders were looking for their time. And that was a very turbulent period also. And being compassionate was very important at that point of time. So what Santosh ma'am said was, yes, we need to keep empathy at the forefront of everything and then move forward. I think so. And of late we are talking a lot about that also, because somehow, even though COVID is gone, it's still not left its footprint on all of us. There is still that a nagging feeling of something may just go wrong. And we worry, because if that happens, how long can we sustain it with hybrid learning, or with online learning? Because we've seen where the online learning led us to. There were a lot of gaps that had to be filled, emotionally as well as practically in the classrooms. So I think what Santosh ma'am said, I completely agree, and I'm sure the others who are listening to will also agree to that. Because every one of us have felt somewhere or the other that last few years we have had this phase of learning and unlearning, and then coming and learning new things, and we are trying to grapple with a lot of advancement also in technology. That also put a lot of pressure on both the teachers, the learning community, as well as the educators. Yeah.
So Dr. Joy, would you like to share your views on how can we, what kind of role do we need our teachers to play in this scenario where technology is such a huge role to play in the classroom and in 21st century pedagogy?
I don't think so. We have a.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think so. We have.
All right, so then maybe we could just carry on for now. So what do you think are the strategies that can be employed to help teachers address the diverse learning needs?
Santosh ma'am, you want to say something on that?
Well, I would say that when we talk about diverse learning needs of the children, and we have to also keep at the same time at the center stage of, while we are in the class, I expect teacher to cater to the multiple intelligences of the students also. Because when we say multiple intelligences, each child has different 3 to 4 intelligence types, for instance, whether it is cognitive abilities, whether it is visual, spatial, or linguistic, verbal intelligence type, or it is natural intelligence, where the child learns being outdoors in the close contact with the nature, or it is verbal linguistic. That means the teacher has to adapt a strategy where she can organize, for instance, debates in the classrooms or declamation. So all that can be done. Or some children have, for instance, they learn through music, so musical intelligence. So she can, there can be a song out of a lesson can be prepared. And so these kind of, so she has to cater to it, that her pedagogy, her methodology, her lesson plan has to incorporate methodologies to address to all intelligence types.
And the diverse learning levels in a class, because no class is uniform.
Yes, no class is uniform. And similarly, like NEP also talks about, over the years, I've seen we have been giving a lot of importance, focus to the children who are below average. And, all your lesson plans and diaries have the steps taken to improve the weak students or remedials, and teachers are writing a lot. So far as gifted children are concerned, we've hardly given any attention to them, right? So NEP talks about gifted children's, their education also. And it makes a lot of sense to me also, because over the years while I was teaching in my teaching career, once I realized, decade and before that, because if you pay attention to these gifted children, it brings all together different kind of results. So, we have to have assignments for the gifted children also. So we have, for instance, what we do is we have got worksheets and assignments, everything. But for these gifted ones, we have extended learning worksheets also. So which give them ample scope to think laterally. So these kind of things can be done. And then, as you said, the technology, that must be integrated. Because earlier what was happening in a classroom, if you see, there used to be monologue now, or lecture method. Now it has become interactive lecture. So interactive lecture methodology never fails, because there's a lot of scope to weave other things into it, whether it is audiovisual, whether it's a video, whether it's in between some drama. There are children with kinesthetic intelligence, so they work with that. They learn things very fast when it is a theater, being done, or some activity being organized, or something through dance, like maths dance, for instance. So integration, interdisciplinary. So teachers' classroom has to vibrate with a variety of methodologies. There's a lot of scope, and she can also integrate technology to make it more interesting. That's what I feel.
So Anita, how do you think schools can best integrate technology training into their professional development programs for teachers?
Right.
I mean, we are always trying to upgrade the skills of teachers. So how do we integrate? Because technology also upgrades equally fast.
Yes. So before I talk about technology, I just want to add on what Mrs. Vyas just mentioned about different kinds of learning styles. But to empower our teachers on the other hand, because obviously the learning styles have to be taken care of. Also, different kind of, as she said, plannings, and even the worksheets or even any activity has to be designed around that. But on the other hand, the teachers need that. And as you are talking about professional development with technology, I think so before technology sets in, I think so we have to empower the teachers with professional development for tackling those skills also. Sometimes teachers, because they have never experimented on those levels, or they haven't come across those kind of students on a regular basis, they get very stuck up. Sometimes they're very apprehensive in using new innovative methods because they don't know whether it'll be a success or a failure. So I think so promoting and open-mindedness, because I come from Ivy and Cambridge, we talk a lot about that open-mindedness and acceptance has to be there. Children cannot be stamped and tabooed for what they have, come into this world, because they are beautiful anyways. Every child is beautiful, in their own unique way. So to address that, I think so promoting a growth mindset is very important with the teachers. Also allowing them to have an open communication channel with the principal and with their coordinators and with their management, so that if they come across an issue and they're stuck, instead of struggling, discussion can happen and solutions can come in. And I always believe that when you communicate, there are always solutions to a problem. A problem won't arise if there is no solution to that. So there is, at the end of it, as we say, that at the end of every dark night, there is a early morning, bright morning, or after a very rainy day, there is a spectrum of beautiful rainbow. And then so the children are also the same way. The teachers are also, after all, everybody is a human being. So professional development, obviously now with technology, with the going times, and with the way we are running in a fast pace, with AI coming into the scene, I think so. It's very, very important that not only do we have adapted learning platforms, because we have to be very adaptive in the class also, and that can only happen if the management's also in sync with the school as to the needs of the education. That technology plays a very important role. Even for example, examinations, and even NEP is talking about a lot of skills, a lot of presentations. How do they do that? How do they make a PowerPoint presentation? It's a very basic requirement now. At one point of time, it was something, these are very a novel idea of making a PPT and presenting it, but now it's need of the hour. Everyone has to know how to do it. Everyone needs to know how to embed a video into your presentation, or maybe an audio. So a training is required at the basic level, where I think so the teacher training, universities and colleges also need to embed that in their program. And the schools need to keep on giving that, implementing regular professional developments, with tying up with these companies and bringing in professionals from there. Because I believe that students today are 10 times ahead of any educator. By the time we learn something, they've already learned and moved ahead and learned something 10, no, 10 more new things. So I think so a continuous professional development is the need of the hour for the teachers, definitely. And a feedback mechanism is required, because if communication is there, then even the coordinators and principals can talk and give the feedback immediately, and address any problems that come in, and bring that to the classroom. Because if our teacher is ready, there is no classroom which will not be wonderful and beautiful. But if our teacher is not ready, then it is a big struggle.
And when classes are thriving, children respond beautifully.
Yes.
You can see that, you can see the learning happening.
Yes.
And as you've said, when NEP and NCF are focusing on this,
Right.
it's important for teachers to be able to deal with this. So we welcome Dr. Shunita Joy to the panel as well. And maybe you would like to share your thoughts on, how can we encourage and support our teachers in, fostering critical thinking and problem solving skills in the 21st century? I mean, assuming that teachers are the key to sort of creating and instigate and instilling those values and life skills that Santosh ma'am was speaking about. How can we, as school leaders, how could we go about that? What are your thoughts on that?
So good evening, everyone. Wonderful to be here. Sorry for some kind of technical glitch. I was not able to join earlier. So just taking on from our previous speaker, I too had a Cambridge curriculum where, this, I would say that we are encouraged to think at all points of time out of the box. And, we try to promote critical thinking skills right from earlier years. However, that does not mean, of course, that other curriculums do not. It all depends upon the teacher. And I think that's the pivotal role that a teacher plays in developing it. Ask them to look for solutions. We have to remember that children are they are differentiated learners. So we have auditory learners, visual, kinesthetic learners, and we have to design activities accordingly. So obviously for a learner who is more kinesthetic, he would learn by doing. And we need to, look for how we would be able to engage them in the classroom by designing activities which do not disrupt the class, but at the same time engages them. Keeping in mind that we have a class of multiple different kinds of learners. So we also have the auditory learners, the visual, the ones who learn by doing and reading. So the visual learners, we would need to show them more activities, maybe like design activities where they need to watch something and then complete it. Or if it is a reading, a person who learns more by reading and writing, then giving them such kinds of tasks. So a teacher needs to remember that all the children in her class need to be made to feel comfortable, not different as such, but keeping in mind all their needs. I think that it's a very tough job being a teacher, actually, because there are so many expectations that, of course, we as head of schools have, then the parents have, then the children have. But then the teacher needs to get empowered with such kind of, give her more exposure to exploring by maybe watching, going to other kind of professional development courses, design activities, explore. Nowadays with the internet, everything is so open, and more people are able to explore how activities are being conducted in class, how a particular chapter is being done. So I just want to talk about one primary class where we were doing angles. We were learning about angles. So the teacher designed a very unique activity. And that was, she took she obviously opened the door, and then she labeled the different angles, right from a right angle to the, the lesser angles. And then as she had labeled it, she asked the children, now which angle is this? And as they kept closing the door, there were different angles labeled, and children were able to remember it because this was learning by doing. They were observing it. They were able to ask the next question, that what happens if you open the door even further than the 90 degrees? So this is how small things make a difference, and we can design interesting activities for the children. And it doesn't matter which curriculum. It depends upon how much opportunities we bring about for the teachers. Let her bring in her creativity, and do not load them with so much of back-end paperwork to do that their creativity is lost. So that balance we need to create.
Also, can I add to it? Because earlier Anita ma'am also said, now Dr. Shanila also, like, when we talk about CPD, continuous professional development, I think as leaders, it is our responsibility to ensure that as per recommendations of NEP, 50 hours of CPD, which is compulsory, must be ensured. And for that, we have to see that, like, how do we empower them? What is the time management, there, what time they can do it. So we have to create slot for them, which is only for learning, for growth mindset, and, for learning new skills. So that is important. And I feel the earlier Anita ma'am said, the managements have to be in sync with this idea. They have to support the development programs, because logistics are involved. When we say like, teachers are always self-motivated, but then there's a limit. So some managements, they come with support 100%. Right? Sometimes teacher has to spend. So there, that becomes also a constraint, at times. So the role of the school leaders, the principals, and the management is very important in ensuring continuous professional development of their teachers. And more so now, as the, when we're talking about global citizenship, right? So teachers' competencies also have to be accordingly. So she also has to be given international exposure. And when we talk about international exposure, again, logistics are involved. So everybody, I mean, that is constraint in implementation.
Yeah.
Sparing the teacher, and then from the school, and then this, of course, principal will do it, but then the logistics. So there it becomes a constraint, because technology has made the doors open. All right, we can connect with any part of the world, but visiting a place in physical space makes a lot of totally different experience it is.
No, and despite technology and rapid advancements in technology, the reality is, and I think all of us agree on that, the teacher continues to be central to the classroom. There's a debate about, can teachers be replaced? I don't think so. I mean, I don't think so. I think she continues to be central to the classroom and central to the school, because when our teachers are ready, future ready, or just ready to handle the diversity that we have in our classes, I think that's when schools will be future ready. I think that's important. So we have to first of all acknowledge that we need our teachers to be, groomed the right way, and we need our teachers to have skills. And that's a continuous process, as Santosh ma'am said. It's not a one-day job.
Yeah. And as I said, when we're talking about teachers central to everything, what about EQ? No technology can ensure the emotional quotient of the child. Only teacher in the classroom, we know the success stories, how they could transform or empower a child who used to, who would be a very shy child, or, could be suffering an emotional turmoil in his or her life at home. So it's only teacher who can get everything out of the child and, respond.
And I think also collaboration between the school, the community, the parent, the teachers is so important if the child is to gain. So Anita, in what ways do you think collaborative thinking and learning can be promoted between learners and students and children? Do you think that's significant?
So again, see, because Santosh ma'am has said, and I think so, Dr. Sunila also said, it's very, very important to see that it's an ongoing thing. So collaboration always comes in. If it's an ongoing thing, then you collaborate, you discuss, you involve all the stakeholders into it. You design your curriculum accordingly, you design your learning accordingly. So curriculum is definitely a structured framework which comes, and see, with us, with IB and Cambridge, we get a very structured curriculum scheme of work and framework. But with CBSE also that is there. And both the curriculums, or national or international curriculums, no way says that you can not take out time for holistic learning, right? And NEP now has a very big quotient of skills learning. We already had that. We already had the research elements in the international curriculum, but they've brought it into the CBSE curriculum also. So hands-on activity, experiential learning. Now, when you do all that, you obviously indulge into a lot of collaboration. You have a lot of ideas, but those ideas earlier were, kind of nipped off in national curriculums because of the constraint of time and the constraint of the thought process behind learning in that curriculum. But now with skills coming in, and a very important vocational learning has become very important. So skills like, we would always say, it's a boy should also know how to make a cup of tea, or maybe make a snack for himself. Now that's part of the curriculum. Now you can take it as a home science class, or you can take it as a live, session in a class, and you can teach sciences behind them also. You can teach with the help of technology, because gadgets, the children are very happy with gadgets, but these are electronic gadgets which you can quickly make some snacks also with. But that, if you integrate and if you have a learning behind it, I think it becomes a very beautiful collaborative process. So collaboration is not only sitting and doing a brainstorming and looking for different kinds of lesson plans and different kinds of resources in the lesson plan, but it's also to share ideas and then work on those ideas. So in the true sense of the word, innovate. So we don't wait for a science symposium to happen or a science exhibition to happen to do a experiment there and then showcase that. You can do it daily also in, I'm not saying in a very large scale, but minuscule stage. So I think so collaboration plays a very important role, and not only with your school. Right now, we are 4 different people sitting from 4 different schools. Ideas can be shared amongst us as well. You may be successful in something that we don't know of. We may be struggling. We may be very good at something which you may be struggling, but when we discuss, it comes out. That's the true sense of collaboration. So collaboration happens at every level, whether it's the leaders, whether it's the educators, whether it's the learners, whether it's even our community and parents. Because in IB and in Cambridge, community service is very important. So there is a CAS component there, right? Same way in CBSE or in ISC, they used to have an SUPW. Because social, useful, productive work, because that connects you with the society, where we tell them that, even the kids who are not in the mainstream, or maybe the old people who are staying in the old homes, why they are part of our society, yet they are so disconnected with us. So they also need love and care. So that's also learning. And we collaborate, so word collaboration has now become bigger than just being a collaboration of, brainstorming in a classroom. So I think so that's very important. And with the communication skills and your 21st century skills, we need this communication on between everyone who's involved. Because even if when we go old, we are still learners. We need to adapt to new things. We can't shut ourselves behind the doors and say, we've done it and we don't want to do anything else. We can't do that anymore. So I think so collaboration in its true sense is now not only inside the classrooms but outside as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. And with CBSE providing more and more opportunities through workshops, through training sessions, and through several platforms, whether it's the Diksha app or whether it's the workshops, a lot of this is going into training and guiding teachers to understand how to be able to handle all those, skills that need to be transferred to children and how to do it as well. I think it's not just about telling them what to do, but how to do it as well. And that has made a difference because teachers are increasingly interacting with each other through, workshops and seminars. And that has really upgraded knowledge and skills. So, Dr. Joy, what challenges do you think schools are facing in implementing effective professional development for teachers? And how can we overcome these? Because we're all trying to upgrade our teachers. What are your thoughts on that?
So, of course, different schools have different challenges, but on the whole, a lot of it is also related to the commercials. How much do we spend on the teachers' development, professional development? So when we talk about, I mean, Cambridge trainings or IBDP trainings are pretty expensive. And some schools have a concern about how much we should spend on teachers. And many a time teachers are made to, they could go ahead and, take the professional, they could take that particular training themselves. However, I think now there is a greater awareness that, yes, we need to upskill our teachers. So that is a concern. Another thing is availability of time. How do we do our in-house trainings? What are the trainings that they exactly require? Also, is it connected to really with the classroom, with the classroom discussions? So if what we are training them for, they need to realistically implement it in class. So sometimes there is a disconnect. So instead of just doing it for the sake of doing it, it should be more a question of what they actually require, what teachers actually require. And another thing is that teachers themselves sometimes feel that very experienced teachers feel we've already got, say, for example, so many toppers, we've been doing this, done that, we're already good. So is there a requirement? So I think that awareness, some of them need to be a little more aware. So schools face a mixture of all this. As heads of schools, very often we have to convince the management that, yes, we need to go for this. We need to convince the teachers that, yes, you too need to, if you cannot go for a particular training, nowadays there are webinars. There's so much that we learn. Even this particular discussion that we are having is before we get in here and we start, connecting the four of us. Obviously, we would be reading up. So that time has been spent in learning something or relearning or revisiting something which was there at the back of our mind. So that kind of example, we need to lead by example, not just rest on our laurels that, okay, we've done that, we are this one, we are, we are whatever we are. So I feel that very often teachers who are very comfortable with that particular system, they feel that, we do not need anything more. But a lot of emphasis is also not only about the curriculum or, subject specific training. It's also about, as I think one of you already brought it about, the emotional quotient, therefore mental well-being. How do you handle stress? So when we have these mental health workshops for teachers, they love it because they become children again. They're able to forget everything. And we love to see them like that, as how they were when they came. When they joined, they had so many ideas. And then over a period of time, it sort of wanes with so much work. But then when you see them enjoying themselves, then we know that this has to be not just one workshop, but somewhere we need to make them, engage in such activities. So some schools have a yoga session for teachers, some music session, different things. So we can strategize, collaborate, as collaboration is the way ahead, and find out whatever are the best practices that other schools are doing, and make sure that we create that kind of space, maybe on a working Saturday, keep aside 1 hour for this kind of thing for teachers, because they face a lot of stress because of the constant interaction with the children, parents, and all of us, of course. So these are the obstacles actually that are mainly there. And also, I think when we tell them that you have to do something, it becomes a, why should I? Also, there are many schools which have their own inbuilt apps where teachers can go in for these kind of engagements where they can get self-trained. So that's good too. But as one of you rightly said, nothing that replaces a trainer or a teacher. That human touch, that is really important. That gives it the realistic, that this is really, yes, I too face this problem. Okay, I too face that challenge. So these things are to be kept in mind when organizing any kind of professional development courses. And I think more managements are becoming aware of it and sending more and more teachers for it.
So Santosh ma'am, how can school leaders then foster a culture of continuous learning and development?
Yeah, a lot has been said, but then, again, I feel that teachers' engagement with each other is also very important. So they have to collaborate. When we talk about teachers too, one of them is engaging with each other. So they have to be together. They have to collaborate with each other to plan certain activities. Okay, the sharing of the innovative practices with each other is also, I think, one of the ideas. So we have, like, for instance, time slot after 2 o'clock when the school is over for an hour, at least once a week or twice in a week, section wise. The best practices are shared. So that is also very important, the role of a leader to create such, spaces within the school curriculum for teachers where they can engage with each other, collaborate, brainstorm, and share their best practices so that, one best practices in particular section can be replicated elsewhere also, okay, in age-appropriate manner. That is also very important. And when I say 21st century skills because teachers themselves have to acquire. So more workshops, say, for instance, global citizenship and all that, new skills such as resilience, post-COVID, growth mindset. So growth mindset, again, like teachers have to know in today's world, earlier teacher would come, this challenge, that challenge, challenges will be there. Can they, transform or make use of these challenges as opportunities and convert them into opportunities? So that kind of insight through workshops, I think that is the role of the leaders, how they can empower their teachers, So because nowadays we're talking about adversity quotient also, EQ, IQ, all right. Then we talked about SQs, social quotient and spiritual quotient, all these are so important for holistic development of every child. So teacher herself also has to have these quotients. I think this is very, very important. And
we have somebody wanting to ask a question. I'm sorry to cut it, but Bindu wants to ask a question. She's raised her hand if you'd like to go ahead.
Yeah, what was the question?
Yeah, if you'd like to go ahead and ask your question. I don't think she's part of it. So I think in all of this, the role of all stakeholders, parents, management, we've been talking about it, but the process is ongoing. So what do you think, Anita, is the role of stakeholders in this?
Very important, because if the parents are not aware and the parents are not accepting the fact that there is a need with the child, it's a big struggle. And I'm sure other principals will agree, when there is a special need child, the first block itself is the parent, because they are not in the acceptance of that fact that the child needs intervention, the child needs that special care and love. they automatically take it in a very diverse form, and then, you know, they take it in a very negative form also, that, you know, you're telling us that our child is needing, you know, psychological help and everything. But it's not that. They are intelligent enough in other areas. You just have to explore those areas and, you know, enhance those areas by supporting that learning and giving them that space. So inclusion has become a very important role. I don't know about CBSE schools as yet, but IB and Cambridge schools have a lot of inclusion. They also have inclusion as far as your educators are concerned. So you accept educators also who have special needs, and they are also brought into the mainstream. So international curriculum is already helping out and supporting that inclusion, but I'm sure CBSE will.
Yes, CBSE is also into inclusion now. You know, we don't have, earlier we used to have that special, you know, like resource for these.
Right. So as stakeholders, I always believe that the teachers should be also part of our learning. So involve them in your school. You know, these you know, parents are they have explored their childhood. They've gone through their learning years. They have become something. Richness of learning back to the classroom, you know, and share. And how beautiful it would be that a child sees his own parent coming as an educator to the class for that one single hour, or, you know, a part of the day. It brings in oneness amongst themselves. Parents also know, you know, they also start respecting the teachers because they see how much love and how much efforts the teachers are putting with their children in the classroom. So this involvement of all stakeholders is very important. Yes, the management has to be open about it also, because sometimes management is on a back foot on those things. But if they, and, you know, sometimes when management has their own children in the school, it becomes a very beautiful program, because then they're so involved and they want to be part of everything. But why only then? I always tell, you know, it's a child, it's as a child to a mother is a student to a teacher, you know. So, and a teacher could be a father role model or a mother role model, because 8 hours out of the day, or sometimes in boarding schools you have 24 hours the child is with you, whether it's in the boarding or whether it's in the classroom. So, you know, you become the second parent. So the role reversal happens. They are teachers at home, and then we become the parents at school. So if this acceptance of reversal of roles and, you know, hand holding happens between the community, I think so it becomes a very beautiful environment to learn different things. And where we are talking so much about skills, and with so much of, you know, wars happening, there's so much of uncertainty happening. With all this, I think so it brings in a very beautiful learning environment when you connect everybody together. It's like the beads in the, you know, in the necklace. Yeah.
So I think what we've actually been discussing is how we need our teachers to be, you know, prepared for several eventualities. I think we began before COVID assuming that life would continue the same way, and I think COVID has shown us that to be, you know, to encourage our children to be future ready and to be future ready schools, we need our teachers to be also, you know, future ready and upgraded and upskilled enough to be able to tackle whatever kind of challenges they face. And sometimes I think they're facing plenty, they're dealing with plenty, and we're still expecting them. And I think that's the beauty of being a teacher. You're so flexible yourself, and when you sort of impart that and share that with your children, I think classes become vibrant. As all of you have said, it's important to have, you know, critical thinking, collaboration, and involving the stakeholders. I think while all of that is important, as school leaders, as principals, probably we also look after the well-being of our teachers. I think that's equally important. As Santosh ma'am has said, their own emotional well-being and you know, their ability to adapt to circumstances, something that all of us should support them with. And that really is the crux of helping them develop continuously, because it can't happen in a vacuum. It will happen when all of us collaborate together. So I'd like to thank you all for a very interesting interaction. I think as leaders, while we try to guide our teachers the right way, sometimes we learn more from them and their needs because they learn from their children in class. And the need to be updated is something that each one of us in society, in any case, is going through. With that, I think we have a hand up. Divya, if you would like to ask your question.
Can she?
Yeah, I don't know. Can she ask her question? There's a hand up. So with that, I'd like to conclude this panel discussion today. I think I'd like to also thank, the Global Ed Connect Forum for giving all of us this opportunity to discuss. I think we're usually so caught up with whatever we're doing on a regular basis, we never get to exchange thoughts. And it's been wonderful hearing those thoughts. It's been wonderful hearing from all of you. And I'm sure that all those who are listening would be able to take home the fact that a teacher is central to the education process. And we need to handhold each one of those teachers and help them upgrade their skills to be able to make our classes invigorating, energizing, and collaborative.
So
Thank
before
you all.
we leave, Aparna, so before we leave, we'll thank the participants also. I think so they are the teachers. I think so they were listening to us. So
Yeah.
a big thank you to them, and a big thank you to Abhishek and his team as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
High school moms, yeah, they've done a fabulous job, I think, a wonderful job putting together such interesting panel discussions.
right.
So thank you,
Thank you
Meenu.
so much, everyone.
Thank
That was
you,
an amazing session.
Aparna
ma'am.
ma'am. Thank you, Anita ma'am.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you,
Nice
everyone.
meeting everyone.
Very
Hope
much.
to, hope to meet you and connect with you all soon.